The year 1947 marked the end of British rule in India, a monumental event that signalled the end of nearly 2 centuries of colonial dominance. The British Empire, once sprawling and seemingly invincible, was now retreating from the Indian subcontinent, leaving behind a land teeming with aspirations, anxieties, and uncertainties. This departure led to the partition of the subcontinent into 2 separate nations, India and Pakistan. The decision to divide the land was fraught with tension and controversy, as it was based on religious lines, aiming to create a Muslim-majority Pakistan and a Hindu-majority India. The partition triggered one of the largest mass migrations in human history. Millions of people were uprooted from their homes, compelled to cross newly drawn borders in search of safety and belonging. The migration was accompanied by horrific violence, with communal riots breaking out, leading to the loss of countless lives and leaving a deep, indelible scar on the collective memory of the region. Amidst this chaos, the British left behind a complex jigsaw of princely states. These semi-autonomous regions, ruled by local monarchs, were scattered across the subcontinent, each with its own unique history, culture, and political dynamics. The rulers of these princely states, known as Maharajas and Nawabs, were now faced with a critical decision. They had to choose whether to accede to India or Pakistan, a choice that would determine the future of their territories and their people. The hastily drawn partition plan crafted by the British created widespread confusion and chaos. The boundaries were often arbitrary, cutting through communities and even individual properties, leading to disputes and unrest. Many princely states made their decisions based on factors such as religious majority and geographical proximity. For some, the choice was clear and straightforward, aligning with the religious and cultural identity of their populace. However, for others, the decision was fraught with difficulty. Some rulers were torn between personal loyalties, political pressures, and the diverse interests of their subjects. The negotiations were intense, with each ruler weighing the potential benefits and risks of their decision. The fate of Jammu and Kashmir, a princely state with a Muslim-majority population but a Hindu ruler, became a particularly contentious issue. The region's accession to India led to an enduring conflict that continues to affect the geopolitics of South Asia to this day. The Radcliffe Line, the boundary demarcation line between India and Pakistan, cut through villages, families, and even houses. This arbitrary division caused immense suffering as people found themselves suddenly living in a different country from their relatives and friends. Millions were displaced, forced to leave behind their homes, possessions, and livelihoods. The refugee camps were overcrowded and under-resourced, and the journey to these camps was often perilous. The violence that ensued during this period claimed countless lives, adding to the trauma of displacement. The trauma of partition continues to haunt the subcontinent today. Memorials and remembrance events serve as poignant reminders of the pain and suffering endured by millions. The legacy of partition is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a somber reflection on the costs of division and conflict. Jammu and Kashmir, the largest princely state in British India, was ruled by Maharaja Hari Singh, a Hindu monarch, while the majority of his subjects were Muslim. This unique demographic composition created a complex political scenario. Initially, Maharaja Hari Singh hesitated to make a decision about the future of his state. He hoped to remain neutral, avoiding alignment with either India or Pakistan. His dream was to maintain Jammu and Kashmir as an independent entity, free from external influences.
India, led by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, believed that Kashmir should align with India, despite its Muslim majority. Nehru, himself a Kashmiri Pandit, had a personal connection to the region and was determined to see it as part of India. The strategic importance of Kashmir couldn't be ignored. Its location was crucial, bordering both India and Pakistan, and it held significant military and geopolitical value.
On the other hand, Pakistan saw Kashmir as a natural extension of its territory. Given the Muslim majority, Pakistan argued that Kashmir should rightfully be part of its nation. The Maharaja's indecisiveness created a vacuum that was quickly exploited by external forces. both India and Pakistan began to maneuver politically and militarily to gain control over the region.
Meanwhile, the Muslim population, led by prominent leader Sheikh Abdullah, demanded freedom from the Maharaja's rule. They sought either independence or accession to Pakistan, reflecting the growing unrest and desire for self-determination.
The stage was set for a confrontation with far-reaching consequences. The political and military tensions were escalating, and the future of Kashmir hung in the balance. The fate of Kashmir was about to be decided on the battlefields. The serene valleys and picturesque landscapes were soon to witness the horrors of conflict. The serene land of Kashmir, known for its breathtaking beauty and tranquil environment, was on the brink of a devastating conflict. The decisions made by Maharaja Hari Singh and the actions of India and Pakistan would shape the region's future for decades to come. In October 1947, armed tribal militias, supported by Pakistan, invaded Kashmir. These militias, composed of tribesmen from the northwest frontier province, were motivated by a mix of religious fervor and the promise of loot. Their sudden and aggressive incursion into the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir created a chaotic and dire situation. The Maharaja, Hari Singh, found his forces overwhelmed and appealed to India for military assistance. His decision was not easy, as he had initially hoped to remain independent. India, however, insisted that Hari Singh sign the instrument of accession first, which would legally integrate Kashmir into the Indian Union. This was a crucial step to ensure that any military intervention by India was legitimate and within the bounds of international law. The Maharaja acceded to India on October 26, 1947, signing the Instrument of Accession. This document granted India control over defense, foreign affairs, and communications in Kashmir.
Indian troops were swiftly airlifted to Srinagar to repel the invaders. The operation was one of the first major airlifts of its kind and was critical in preventing the fall of Srinagar to the tribal militias. This marked the beginning of the First Indo-Pak War, a conflict that would last until the end of 1948 and result in significant casualties on both sides.
The invasion triggered a full-blown war, with both nations mobilizing their military forces. The conflict saw intense battles and strategic maneuvers as each side sought to gain control over key territories, and deep mistrust between India and Pakistan. The political leaders of both countries engaged in heated exchanges, further straining diplomatic relations. The conflict escalated into a proxy war between the two nations, with each side receiving support from various international allies, complicating the situation further. The dream of a peaceful future seemed to fade amidst the battle. Civilians bore the brunt of the conflict, with many losing their homes and livelihoods, casting a long shadow over the region's future. The First Indo-Pak War was fought amidst the upheaval of partition. Fierce battles in treacherous terrain resulted in heavy casualties.
Indian forces successfully defended Uri, a turning point in the war.
Thousands of soldiers and civilians lost their lives. The war brought misery and suffering to Kashmir's people. It was a clash of ideologies. India fought for territorial integrity, Pakistan for liberation. The war left a lasting impact on both nations. The conflict deepened the divisions between India and Pakistan. The international community intervened as the war threatened to spiral out of control.
The UN mediated, passing Resolution 47 in April 1948, calling for a ceasefire and demilitarization.
The resolution proposed a three-step process. Pakistan withdraws troops, India reduces its military presence, and a plebiscite is held.
The UN's involvement set a precedent for future interventions.
The UN faced criticism from both India and Pakistan. India argued Pakistan was the aggressor, while Pakistan claimed the accession was illegal. The UN struggled to find an acceptable solution. The Kashmir dispute remained unresolved. India and Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire in January 1949. The ceasefire line, supervised by UN observers, divided Kashmir.
Indian-controlled Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan-occupied Azad Kashmir.
The ceasefire line became the de facto border, the line of control, LOC. The LOC symbolized the unresolved dispute and human cost of the conflict. The UN Commission for India and Pakistan, UNCIP, monitored the ceasefire. The dream of a peaceful resolution seemed elusive. The UN resolution for a plebiscite in Kashmir was a beacon of hope. However, the plebiscite never took place.
India and Pakistan cited unmet preconditions for the plebiscite.
The plebiscite promise became a source of frustration. The people of Kashmir felt betrayed by the international community. The unresolved status fueled separatist sentiments and unrest.
The failure to hold the plebiscite prolonged suffering and poisoned relations. The plebiscite became a casualty of mistrust and animosity.
The First Indo-Pak War had long-lasting implications. The unresolved Kashmir dispute became a central point of contention.
The idyllic valley turned into a heavily militarized zone. The conflict fueled violence, repression, and human rights abuses.
The unresolved dispute remains a major obstacle to peace. The region has witnessed several outbreaks of violence. The presence of militant groups complicates the situation. A lasting solution remains elusive. The First Indo-Pak War cemented deep mistrust and animosity between the two nations. The unresolved Kashmir dispute has continually hindered cooperation. The war led to a massive arms race, escalating tensions significantly. The nuclear tests in 1998 raised the stakes even higher. Despite numerous peace initiatives, mistrust remains. Unresolved disputes continue to fuel ongoing tensions. A resolution to the Kashmir dispute requires strong political will and dialogue. Cooperation, not confrontation, is the true path to lasting peace. The First Indo-Pak War serves as a reminder of the human cost of conflict. The war's legacy shapes political discourse and foreign policy.
The failure to resolve the Kashmir dispute perpetuates suffering.
The international community must play a proactive role. A lasting solution requires addressing all stakeholders' concerns.
The future of South Asia hinges on cooperation and peaceful coexistence. The time for dialogue and reconciliation is now.